everyone. This is Kara Cowan Watts with Cherokee 411, and we're here today with Matt Roberts to talk about natives in sports. And we're going to talk about his incredible, wonderful dad, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but Matt's going to tell us all about him. So, Matt, please introduce yourself, tell our audience about who you are as a Cherokee person, and then we'll dive into sports and Indians.
All right, OCO, great to be here, Kara. And I will say, our relationship goes back more than 20 years. So long ago, I'm a career educator like my dad, and so long ago when I was teaching and coaching at Catoosa High School, I know that's when we became acquainted, and you came and spoke to some of the classes that I had and helped out Catoosa as a district, and our relationship has just continued. But yeah, so on my dad's side of the family, Cherokee. Even though we grew up in Osage country in Pawhuska, his family, uh, originated from the Going Snake District of Indian Territory up around Tahlequah, and all of his mom's family and siblings were in Pawhuska. His dad was also a Cherokee, so grew up in Pawhuska, and I kind of followed in my dad's footsteps. He was, uh, went to NSU and majored in education, and was blessed to play on a very talented football team there. And uh, he went into education and did that for well over 30 years as a teacher, coach, administrator. And so I followed in his footsteps, and started out as a teacher and coach, and just finished my 22nd year as a school administrator, either as an assistant principal or principal. And so I've worked at Perry Public Schools for a couple years, and I got married and moved up to Tulsa. Was at Catoosa for 7 years, and my last 2 years there, I was an assistant principal. And then I've come to Owasso and been either an assistant or a building principal the 20 years I've been here. I was the high school principal for 8 years, and I'm the principal at the sixth grade center. Good change of pace as I get a little bit older, have a little bit more free time, but uh, and really, yeah, the love of as far as who I am as a Cherokee. And I don't know if you would agree with me, but I think the older you get, the more you value and appreciate your heritage and your culture, and you want to give back. And as you're younger, and as a student, and all the activities you're in, and then in college, and you find that first job, and you get married and start a family, uh, you maybe don't devote as much time as you do, but that's been a calling for me. um, Probably the last 20 years or so, I've been active in the Greater Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission. I think I'm coming up on 14th or 15th year there. And then also in education, we're blessed to be able to give back to our native student population. And I know you've come to Owasso High School when I was there, and given scholarship presentations, and visited with our Native American Student Association, and our native students, and just to help them out as a blessing. One of the most rewarding things that I do as an administrator is, um, help organize not just Owasso students, but the students from all across the state for the City of Tulsa Native American Day celebration. So we're getting ready to come up on our ninth annual City of Tulsa Native American Day celebration. That'll be on Monday, October 13th this year, and it's just grown each and every year. Students participating in the parade, and then at Owasso, we're blessed that we have a partnership with Bell School in Adair County, outside Stillwell. The pre-K through eighth grade school, and uh, that's kind of our sister school, or our adopted school. So every year, we just finished our 19th annual trip to Bell last December, and we're already planning for this year. And it's a blessing to see those students that stay there from pre-K through eighth grade, and get to build relationships with those students and those staff members. And uh, it's it's rewarding for our students to go and visit them. And so those are some of the things that are big and rewarding for me. And then we'll talk a little bit about native athletes, and that comes from that love and passion comes from my dad as well. So I know I rambled a little bit, but that's
So
a little
Matt,
bit
I want
about
to
me.
clarify a couple of things. So
Sure.
first of all, are you a pain? Like
Yes.
Navy pain?
Yes.
So
Yep.
I think I remember.
That's my dad's the maternal side of the family. They're all Paynes. Yes.
So there are so many people that I'm going to harass you about from Rogers County then. That's like a whole other topic. I love this.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you're a pain. And then that's one takeaway I want folks to know because so you come from an incredible international athletic legacy story too. Really.
Sure.
And I apologize as your friend. I didn't understand that until your dad's funeral service when it got brought up. And I was like, oh, he's a pain descendant. Like I know all his rowdy relatives over here too. Yes. And then the other part is I really want to make sure that we showcase your, because you do incredible work. I started not to laugh out loud when you said that as we get older, we appreciate and want to give back. Matt, I don't know of a time that you and I have not been giving back in Indian country and engaged and working on the ground, whether it's leadership roles or picking up trash, whatever it took to make these events happen. I know you've been there. And that's why, like, when you call, I try to jump. What do you need, Matt? Because I know that you're of service to all of us, and I appreciate that. And I'm a teacher's kid, so you're important and you get extra halos in heaven. Um, so we want to highlight, your dad's life, his football awards, his coaching awards, I think that he had received. We want to highlight your Native Day work that you do with Cheryl Cohenhauer and the rest of them for Tulsa and the whole Northeast Oklahoma area. We all show up on that day or try to for the parade. So I want to make sure we get those things to our listeners and we'll provide them as links. So I may be following up with some more stuff. But all right, let's dive in on sports. They're tuning in to hear about natives in sports as well as you, not just you and I and all our crazy. Tell us about natives in sports and highlight 5 key figures for us that you want folks to know.
All right. And really I can remember as a youngster and being in Pusk at my grandparents' home, and uh, they always bought me Jim Thorpe books. As I'm growing up in elementary school reading, I always get a Jim Thorpe book. And then when that movie came on, the 1951 black and white Burt Lancaster movie, Jim Thorpe All American, that was required viewing. I'd almost give that analogy for those our age whenever the Wizard of Oz would come on, and it was like required viewing for elementary age kids. That Jim Thorpe All America was always required viewing for us with a big uh, dish of popcorn, and watching and learning about Jim Thorpe. And so it started with that, and then of course Dad and some of his connections. He let me know. In fact, behind here I keep a little Jim Thorpe figurine. I know he's Potawatomi and Sackett Fox, but he's kind of the original goat of all athletes, and not just native athletes, but all athletes with everything that he accomplished. And so, uh, but with Dad, it took me until my 8th grade year when um, I'd gone to a Friday night Pawhuska football game, and that morning Dad woke me up really, really early and said, "Hey, we're going to Tahlequah," and it was for NSU's football homecoming. So I'm an 8th grader, and we go there, and it was homecoming. It was the 25-year anniversary of the 1958 NAIA national champion football team, the NSU Redmen, that won it all in 1958. So this is 1983, and until then, it wasn't like my younger brother, who's 4 years younger than me, Dr. Monty Roberts, who was a great athlete as well. It wasn't like we grew up and Dad said, "Hey, I was on a national champion football team." Literally had no idea and no clue, but he took me down there, introduced me to a lot of his teammates, and then I come back and tell Monty, "Golly, Dad was on a national champion football team." And then I really kind of wanted to research and go into that with Dad, and so. You know, I told you he grew up in Pawhuska, and so he lived through a lot of history. So he was a four sport athlete, and he always would tell me, he goes, my very first game ever. And it's not like today where kids start like in second, third grade. You know, they start so early now with athletics. Back then it was like junior high. So his first football game was against Chilocco Indian School. So you had the Pawhuska Huskies and Chilocco playing. That was his very first game. But so yeah, football, basketball, baseball, track, and but his senior year of high school was the first year of the integration, 1957 for Pawhuska anyway. And I know different cities and different towns would do that, but Pawhuska had on the south side of Berg Creek had Booker T. Washington School, and I always tell everyone this, that like the biggest successes Pawhuska ever achieved wasn't those state championships in basketball and other sports. It was the way they made that transition and growing together from 1957 on with the integration. And so made so many lifelong friends, had so many outstanding, talented teammates and teams there. And and so after graduation, and there's also a lot of stories there where, you know, him and his teammates road trip to Stillwater to see Wilt Chamberlain play and at Oklahoma A&M, Oklahoma State University, and so many of that first year together as classmates, just so many fun and unique things that they did together, and you know a lot of stories, you know, just some of the racism they encountered as well. You have a lot of Native American kids, a lot of African American kids, and white kids all together, and but yeah, so he ended up at NSU, and how blessed was he that to walk into a loaded football team his first year there, and that was also the first year of the integration with the NSU football team. They had one African American player, D. Lloyd Reed, which was a huge standout, and they ran the table and played it. They went to St. Petersburg, Florida, to play Arizona State at Flagstaff in the Holiday Bowl. And it was broadcast on CBS, and Red Grange, who's he's not up there with Jim Thorpe, but he's one of the pro football all time greats. You know, first class the Pro Football Hall of Fame with Jim Thorpe, and he was the color commentator. So I know both teams had a big dinner. He talked about Red Grange, spoke to all the players, and everything like that, and so yeah, they ended up winning that game 19-13, and you know came back to Tahlequah as a big time celebrities or heroes, I guess you could say. It wasn't until 94 that NSU won it again in 1994 and were runner up in 95. But anyway, he did play his first year there, not as much as the later years where he played a lot more and had a lot of success there, but on the football field. But yeah, graduated and went into education. But so he was inducted in the NSU Athletic Hall of Fame in 2007, and the team was inducted as well. The team was inducted in the Hall of Fame as well. And yeah, he started out post college. You know, he's in the Marine Reserve for 6 years, but he did teaching coach, and he did 1 year at Olive, a real small town in Olive. And believe it or not, I'd run
I actually
into
know at least two Cherokees that live in Olive or are from Olive.
and every time I run into someone, they'll remember Dad from that 1 year he was there. And then he went to here to Owasso, where I've been for 20 years, and he coached 1 year in Owasso with Ronald McHenry, Muskogee, and but then he got a $700 raise to go to Tulsa Memorial, and that was the South Tulsa school at the time. And he always would make that comment to me. Heck, Tulsa Memorial, it was like a Bixby and a Jinx and a Owasso is now. Everyone would move out there to go to school, and he coached football there and baseball. Was a part of several state championship teams. I guess his most famous athlete he coached was Randy Hughes, who went to graduated Memorial in 72, went to OU, and then he was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys and won a Super Bowl 12. He still has a Super Bowl record of he had 3 turnovers against Denver in Super Bowl 12. He had an interception and two fumble recoveries that game. And one time, Dad took us to a Cowboy game. Before the game, he got us down to the front row, just watching him warm up, and it was the biggest thing because he yelled at him and Coach Roberts, and he runs over there, and acknowledges my brother and me. But that was probably the biggest high profile athlete that he coached, and then he did get into administration. He earned a master's degree at Colorado State University and took more hours at TU. Became the dean of boys. They had a dean of boys and a dean of girls, and built a lot of great relationships there. Another great memory I have is, Tulsa Public Schools, and our times have changed, but the Indian Education Act of 1972, came out to offer that support and assistance to our Native students, and TPS was one of the very first Indian education programs in the nation, and so it'll say Tulsa Public Schools Indian Ed Department founded in 1973, and Dad was a part of that with Archie Mason, another Pawhuska Husky that was there, and I can distinctly remember some of the banquets that we would go to and different things. But you talk about, great athletes and specifically Cherokee athletes. Well, there was an episode of OCO on this gentleman, Sammy Jack Clappin, and he's from Stillwell, and he went to OU in 1974. So he was a part of 2 national championship teams at OU under Barry Switzer, 74 and 75. Big 6'6", 285-pound offensive lineman, and just extremely talented athlete on his feet. And then he went and played 7 or 8 years of pro football with the San Diego Chargers and protected Dan Fouts. And they're very innovative because back in the early 80s, they still like to run the ball, but the Chargers threw the ball all the time. And he was a great pass blocker because he was just so big and no one could get around him. And but he came back to TPS. He was invited, and he came and was a keynote speaker. And I can remember being in elementary school and getting to meet him, and thinking he was a giant at 6'6". And I know we still have some pictures from that day. So that's something that just really stuck in my mind. And then now being an educator, you think back of how busy was this guy as a college athlete, as a full-time job, and a professional athlete. And I could see him doing it in Stillwell and around Tahlequah, but going to TPS and giving his time to give back to the youngsters and everything. And, he later became a coach as well. And so, I can remember those days as well. And then, so that just kind of got my passion going, just everything with my dad and seeing the relationships he had and hearing his stories, and reading about Jim Thorpe and everything else. And then just wanting to kind of follow not just your favorite athlete like Roger Staubach, the great quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, but then, specifically Native athletes. And there's a couple of my friends that we get together quite often. James McIntosh, who is well known around the Cherokee circles. He's a Dreamkeeper Award recipient. And Rob Darty, who does a lot of research. He was a minor league baseball player, and he does a lot of research on Native athletes as well. But in addition to those Hall of Fames at NSU, Dad was inducted in the Pawhuska Basketball Hall of Fame. Their senior year, they made it to the Final Four of the state basketball tournament. And he's also a recipient of the Jim Thorpe Sports Excellence Award from the Greater Tulsa Area Indian Affairs Commission. And so he in his retirement days, they kind of called him the general manager at Pawhuska because he would always show up at football practices and different things like that. But But anyway, I know I rambled a little bit, but I'd be happy to talk about a couple athletes unless you wanted to go a different direction.
No, so let's talk about, I know we have several pro football and pro baseball folks. So
Yes.
who should people be watching right now?
Well, I think modern day, just to speak in Cherokees only, I'd say Ryan Helsley. He is one of the top relief pitchers in all of the Major League Baseball the last 2 years. He plays for the St. Louis Cardinals. Went to Tahlequah Sequoia. Amazing story because a lot of
But
in
he's from
baseball,
Sperry originally, right?
um, I don't. Is that Dylan Bundy? Maybe is that who we're talking about from Sperry?
Oh,
He's another great
I
one.
thought Helsley was from Sperry too.
Okay, maybe he was. I know he went to Sequoia and then NSU because he wasn't drafted out of high school, and so great story from Tahlequah to NSU to the Cardinals, and he's had well over 40 saves the last few years, and you can see him quite often because relief pitchers are get a lot more appearances because he comes in and saves the game, keeps the lead, uh, so to speak. And but yeah, Dylan Bundy was one we had here in Owasso that was Sperry. He's a Cherokee, Sperry, and finished up his high school career at Owasso his junior senior year. So I was able to serve as his principal. And he was actually the fourth pick overall in the entire 2011 Major League Baseball draft. He was the first high school player picked fourth overall to the Orioles, and he pitched, for Baltimore, for the Angels, for the Twins, for the Mets, and he is retired now. But he was a starting pitcher, and he gave back as well. And another thing, um, another highlight I like is every summer go to what's called Eagle Flight Camp, and it's been around. It just finished its 58th year, and it was founded by the Jeffers family. And for those that remember Discovery Land in between Sand Springs and Sapulpa, they had the outdoor amphitheater, and they always did the
I have a Cherokee friend that bought that. That's another
okay.
story.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. And it was the official production of Rogers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma out
Yeah.
there, and the I made a connection with the Jeffers family, and they would pick up native students every year, take them to Discovery Land for a week, a free summer camp out there, and so I became connected and would help out, and so Dylan Bundy called him up. Hey, I know you're negotiating the contract, and you'll be playing the rest of your life all summer. Hey, you want to go come speak at this camp? So he loaded up, brought his National Gatorade Player of the Year trophy out there, and went and talked to that camp out at Eagle Flight Camp at Discovery Land. Now it's actually since Mr. Jeffers passed, and it's been sold. That camp is always at Camp Egan in Tahlequah, so they still have it every year, and all those students still come, and we still bring Native athletes out there just to talk to them about the importance of academics and whatever you whatever you want to participate in to do your best. And so I'll just give you some examples. We mentioned Stillwell with Sammy Jack Clappin. Well, they did another story. OCO did on Wyatt Sheets, an All-American college wrestler from Stillwell. Wyatt Sheets, he is a Cherokee, and he came out a few years ago. Drove in from Stillwater and came in and spoke to those campers. And the great story about Wyatt Sheets is, uh, he was a two-time All-American at Oklahoma State, and his junior year he tore his ACL and wrestled his junior year on a torn ACL, and it came to qualifying for the national tournament, and uh, he he did not qualify, and he's in class at Oklahoma State, taking notes, and he gets a text from John Smith, the greatest American wrestler of all time, won a gold medal in 88 and 92 and was a 6-time world champion. And he was the coach at Oklahoma State at the time. And he's like, I didn't know. I was scared to pull my phone out because the professor, but I was also scared that Coach Smith was trying to get a hold of me. So I waited till class was over, and he got a wild card bid into the tournament because someone was injured. So he already had his knee surgery planned for his ACL, and he said, they're canceling it. You're gonna go wrestle. And he goes in as the very last seed, and he ends up running the table and wins to become an All-American. To be an All-American, you have to finish in the top 8. And he accomplished that on a torn ACL. That's a show of his resilience and his grit, and I think his Cherokee upbringing as well. So that was kind of the message that he sent out. And those kids, of course, anyone that comes and visits with them is like a big time celebrity. So I ran into him at remember the 10 run in April earlier. He's still working with the Cowboy Wrestling Club up there, but he's earned his master's degree and everything else. But so anyway, that camp's still going on, and we like to get some athletes in there. And probably the other biggest name, Cherokee, he's Cherokee and Kiowa, but in native right now, currently, it would be Lindy Waters, I think. Of course, the Thunder are one game away from the NBA Finals, and he spent the majority of his professional career with them. And of course, he was traded to the Golden State Warriors and had a great first half of the season, and now he's with the Detroit Pistons. But he's he has a wonderful story, playing at Oklahoma State, then working his way up for the semi-pro ball and the G League ball, and then sticking, and it's beautiful to see the following that he has everywhere he plays. We can go to Denver, and all the Native Americans want to come and watch Lindy Waters, and he's carrying a torch there because you think of all the historic. You hear about res ball and how basketball is big to the Native culture. There was a Chickasaw and Choctaw named Cab Rennick. Since you're an Oklahoma State grad, he was the first 2-time basketball American for Mr. Iba. And Lindy kind of followed in his footsteps, carrying on that tradition there at Oklahoma State. And Cab Rennick became the captain of the 1948 gold medal winning basketball team there in London, England. But yeah, so Lindy Waters is a great one to still follow.
And Lindy has family here in Claremore, and they all give back. The ones I know are all just incredible people. Okay, we're going to bring this to a close.
Gotcha.
What do you want folks to remember that are aspiring athletes, like our young people? What's a thought you or your dad would leave them with?
Yeah, and people would ask me about Dad on this, because like I told you, he didn't talk about his exploits. And one thing with my brother and I don't think he was a kind of one of those crazy sports dad that would want to wake us up at 5 a.m. and here's your diet, here's your training regimen. But it was one of those, whatever you do, you're going to be all in, and you're going to give it 100%. And like every morning when I would talk to him early before I'd go to work, he'd always finish it. You got to give him 100% today. And so I think the message I would have is there's so much culture and heritage within the Cherokee Nation. Whether it be art and around the drum and the singers and the powwow arena and food and we have all kinds of artists, whether it be the clothing they design, and my cousin Tama, whether it be the pottery that she does, and then we got that heritage and culture there, and then of course we've got the history of the great educators going back to Sequoia and lawyers, and everything that we do is hey, just be proud of your culture and represent that, and and give back as well, because it you as a youngster, you always hear that you get out of it what you put into it, but you don't think. But as you get older, you actually realize how much you get out of it, how rewarding it is when you do give back, and that, hey, just to know that, yeah, we've got. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's athletics or whether it is engineering like you, or education, or the medical field. Like my brother, who's a pulmonologist now, went through med school on the Indian Health Service scholarship. Hey, Cherokees are producing standouts in all fields, whether it be athletics or anything else like that. And I know he was a Choctaw and Chickasaw, but Cab Rennick told me this. I touched on him. He's another one of my heroes, the captain of the 1948 Olympic basketball team. He said, when I grew up, the Choctaws didn't claim me. They all said I was a Chickasaw. Well, the Chickasaws didn't claim me either. They all said I was a Choctaw. When I won that gold medal, everybody claimed me. But the quote that he said to me was, he goes, when I was at Oklahoma A&M and playing under Mr. Ibe, he goes, I wanted to prove to everyone that I was just as good, or maybe a little bit better than everyone else. And so he took a lot of pride in his heritage, and very stoic, very not outspoken, not outgoing, very stoic, but it meant a lot to him. And I think the same way with my dad. When you got to know him, he could talk to you, and he was a great communicator, but not outspoken at all about what he did. But so leave you with that. But there's a lot of great ones out there, a lot of other great athletes as well. I know Sam Bradford won a Heisman Trophy and everything else, but just do some research, and there's a lot. I know you touched on it, the Paynes and Andy Payne and the Great American Foot Race. So many wonderful stories out there as well.
So I have to laugh when you talk about your dad, Bob. We connected immediately, so I can't think of a time that we didn't ever have a lot to say to each other.
Oh yeah. When I say not outspoken about maybe his achievements, is what I meant on that. But he was a talker. Yeah, he never met a stranger, so he was a big time talker as well, for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing a part of your dad's legacy, which is really also now yours, Matt. This meant a lot to me today, meant a lot to be at your dad's service and to hear those stories. And I'm glad we were able to share them with our listeners.
Join the conversation. Discover stories and insights that matter to you. Subscribe to Cherokee 411 with Kara and stay connected with independent media, real, relevant, and unfiltered.